You don't need all this room. My sister, using a spare key, moved into my place with her 3 kids without permission. So I called the police and had them removed. Hello, Reddit. I'm Charlotte, a 32-year-old woman from Texas, and I've spent most of my life overshadowed by my older sister, Ella. She's 3 years my senior and has always been the family favorite. You know the type, bright, charismatic, and able to talk her way out of anything. Meanwhile, I've been the dependable one, which seems to mean the person who does all the heavy lifting without any recognition. Growing up, Ella always got the best of everything. Her birthdays, extravagant backyard parties with bounce houses and pony rides. Mine? A modest pizza gathering in the dining room with a store-bought cake. Christmas? Ella got the deluxe Barbie dream house. I got a second-hand knockoff missing half its parts. My parents would say, "You don't need all that, Charlotte," or "Be thankful for what you've got." And I was. But I couldn't help noticing Ella was never held to the same standard of gratitude. The real inequality hit hard when I started college. I worked tirelessly in high school, balancing AP courses and extracurriculars to earn a stellar GPA. I got accepted to a local university and planned to commute from home to save on dorm costs. I assumed my parents would support me like they did Ella, who attended her dream college with their full financial backing. I was wrong. When I mentioned staying at home, my mom looked at me like I'd proposed moving to the moon. "If you're living here, you'll need to pitch in," she said casually. "Ella got our full support because she earned it. You need to learn to stand on your own." I was floored. At 18, preparing for college, they were already talking about rent. Pitching in meant $400 a month for rent and utilities, plus buying my own food. That might not sound like much, but as a college student earning $9 an hour at a bookstore, it was crushing. I tried to reason with them, pointing out how they'd covered everything for Ella, how she never worried about money. My mom just shrugged. "We gave Ella what she needed," she said. "You're different. You're self-sufficient. You'll manage." So I did. I worked every hour I could at the bookstore, sometimes skipping meals to stretch my budget. I'd walk by the campus cafe, jealous of students who could afford fancy drinks and snacks, while I survived on peanut butter sandwiches and free coffee from the bookstore's break room. I never bought a textbook at full price. Everyone was used or borrowed from the library. Each month, I handed my parents $400, while Ella lived in a shiny new dorm at her out-of-state school, fully funded by them. Once she called to complain that her dorm's air conditioning wasn't cool enough, and I nearly lost it. My car didn't even have working AC because I couldn't afford repairs. My parents kept sending Ella money, with Mom once saying over the phone, "We don't want her to struggle. College is tough enough." I stood in the kitchen, clutching my $1 instant noodles, wondering why no one ever thought about my struggles. To add insult to injury, my parents constantly celebrated Ella's achievements. She graduated with a 3.2 GPA in communications, and they threw her a grand party with catered food and a DJ. When I graduated with a 3.9 GPA in computer science, we had a quiet dinner at home. Mom made lasagna and said, "We don't want to make a big deal." Looking back, the lack of financial help wasn't the worst part. It was the message. I wasn't as important. Ella was the star, the one with potential, while I was just there. Even when I succeeded, it was ignored. "Charlotte's capable. She doesn't need help," they'd say. Being competent felt like a punishment. After college, I moved out as soon as I could. I rented a small apartment near my first job and started building a life on my own terms. It was tough, but it felt liberating to escape their expectations. I worked hard, saved carefully, and lived frugally. Meanwhile, Ella married Josh, a guy my parents adore despite his constant job hopping. They have 3 kids now: Emily, 5, Mason, 4, and baby Daniel, 2. My parents are always bailing them out. When their car broke down last year, my parents gave them money for a new one. When Ella complained about the stress of raising 3 kids, Mom and Dad offered to watch them on weekends. I wish it didn't still sting, but it does. No matter what I accomplish, I'm always second to Ella. That's why I've stopped sharing much with my family. They don't really care. So I kept quiet about my latest decision. I'm ready to buy a house. I've been in this cramped, overpriced apartment for years, saving up forever. Finally, I thought, I deserve this. I didn't tell my family, not to keep it a secret, but because they can't just be happy for me. Everything turns into their project. If I mentioned it, I knew they'd make it about Ella and her kids, how my house should.